Join us as we explore the invisible energy system running just beneath your skin.
Mapping the vital streams that bridge our physical bodies with the deeper planes of life.
I'm Elliot.
And I'm Nadia.
Welcome to the Etheric Double by Arthur E. Powell. When I was small and I had a fever, my mother would sit on the edge of the bed and put her hand on my forehead. And obviously she was checking my temperature. That's the official story. But she'd leave it there, much longer than a thermometer needs. And I would have sworn, and honestly I'd still swear, that something came through it. Not just comfort, something that made the misery of being ill physically easier while her hand was there.
And everyone listening has a version of that. The hand on the sore shoulder, the friend who sits with you when you're low and you feel less low in your actual body. We file it all under comfort, under care, and we never ask the obvious question. Why does it work through skin?
And this book's answer is that it isn't a metaphor. Something really is moving. And today we get to the chapters where all of it becomes deliberate.
Episode 7. Chapters 17 and 18. Healing and Mesmerism. And this is the turn of the whole series because after the birth episode and the death episode, the book comes back to the living, and it asks the practical question. All this vitality we've mapped, the streams, the surplus, the health aura, can it be given? On purpose? And if you're a pranic healer or a Reiki practitioner or any kind of energy worker, this episode is the reason this book is on your reading list. This is the payoff of everything since episode 1.
So the foundation first, because it was laid 2 episodes worth of chapters ago, and it clicks straight in. Remember the healthy person from the spleen chapter. Their intake works so well, they make more charged prana than they need, and the surplus sheds off them in all directions, constantly, unconsciously. The book opens the healing chapter right there. That shedding already strengthens the people nearby. It can already ease minor illness, just by proximity.
Just by being near someone well, which we knew. Every sick person knows the difference between the visitor who leaves you better and the visitor who leaves you worse.
And then the chapter adds the one fact that changes everything, and it's a fact we've met before. Prana is amenable to the will. The currents answer intention. So a person doesn't have to shed their surplus randomly, like a stove heating whoever stands near it. They can consciously direct the stream, aim it, and more than aim it, greatly increase the natural flow. And that's the definition of healing in this book. Directed, willed, amplified giving of vitality.
And say what it's actually doing for the patient, because I love how unmagical the book's picture is.
It's a jumpstart. That's really the model. A depleted patient in this book's terms is usually someone whose spleen center isn't doing its work properly, their intake has faltered, so their whole machinery is running on empty. And the healer's vitality poured in keeps the bodily machinery working until it's recovered enough to manufacture its own supply again. That's the goal. Not to run someone's body forever, but to carry it through the flat patch until its own generator catches.
You're not replacing their engine. You're the other car with the cables. And what does the book say this simple version, just flooding someone with vitality, can actually help with?
The list is very domestic, which I find persuasive somehow. Merely increasing the circulation of prana, it says, is sufficient to cure many minor diseases. Nervous troubles, because all nervous disease implies a jangled condition of the etheric double. That word jangled is the book's, and it's perfect. Digestive troubles, sleeplessness, and headaches, which get their own little mechanism. A headache is usually congestion of blood or of the vital fluid, what the book sometimes calls magnetism. Stuff that's gathered where it shouldn't and stuck. And a strong current directed through the head by a healer washes the congestion away, like running clean water through a blocked pipe.
The jangled double, though. Anyone who's had a proper anxious stretch knows exactly what that phrase means from the inside. You feel out of tune, like something fine in you has been shaken and hasn't settled. And the book's claim is that steady, calm vitality, poured in from someone whose own field is steady and calm, literally smooths it. Which is what it feels like when the right person sits with you.
And above the simple method, there are skilled levels. A clairvoyant healer who can actually see the trouble can do something more precise. They make a mental picture of the diseased organ, and then they picture it as it should be in health. And because strong thought molds etheric matter, that image actually shapes the fine matter of the organ toward the healthy form and helps the body rebuild its own tissues faster. And the fullest method of all, the book describes almost like construction. Create the organ in mental matter first, build astral matter into it, densify it with etheric, and finally guide the body to fill in the gases, liquids, and solids. The whole layering of a body from episode 5, done deliberately in miniature on one organ.
Okay, now the part I know some of our listeners have been waiting for, because it's the concrete one. The book actually gives the working method for magnetic healing, step by step. And let's frame this properly, because it matters. We're a reading companion, so we're going to tell you what the book teaches exactly and plainly, the way we would any other chapter. What anyone does with it is between them, their teachers, and their good sense. And none of this replaces a doctor. Powell himself would agree. He wrote it for students, not instead of medicine.
Right, so the book's method. The patient settles somewhere comfortable, sitting or lying down, and relaxes as thoroughly as they can. The book's suggestion is charmingly specific, an easy chair with solid, flat arms, and the healer sits sideways on the arm of it, so they're slightly above the patient. And the treatment has 2 stages, and the order is the whole art. Stage 1 is not giving. Stage 1 is taking away.
Clear the drain before you pour anything in.
Exactly that. The healer makes passes with the hands over the patient's body, or over the part being treated, with an effort of will to withdraw the congested, diseased, etheric matter, drawing it out. The hands can move just above the body or rest on it whisper light. Either works. And then comes the instruction the book is most emphatic about in the entire chapter. After each pass, the healer must throw off the matter they've just withdrawn.
Because they're now holding it.
They're holding it in their own system. And if they don't get rid of it, the book is blunt, they may find themselves suffering from the very complaint they just cured. And there are records. An operator draws the pain out of a patient's tooth and presently has toothache, out of an elbow and presently the elbow. Keep treating people and neglecting the throw-off, and you can make yourself seriously, chronically ill.
Yeah. And then there's the Synod case, which is the strangest and saddest illustration of this in the book. Tell it.
So A.P. Sinnott records the case of a lady who was cured by a mesmeric healer of chronic rheumatism, completely cured. She moved to another part of Europe, lived well. 4 years later, the healer died, and at the moment of his death, her old rheumatism came back at once with all its former force, because he had drawn it out of her but never destroyed it. It had been hanging in his aura for 4 years, held, and when he died, it flew back to where it belonged.
That's Alf. 4 years he carried her illness without knowing it. That gives me chills every time. The unfinished throw-off didn't just endanger him, it meant her cure was a loan the whole time, not a gift.
So the throw-off itself, and it's almost disappointingly simple, usually it's enough to jerk the hands sharply downward and away from yourself after each pass. Flick it off. Or, the book says, the withdrawn magnetism can be thrown into a basin of water and the water afterwards poured away. And between the 2 stages, wash the hands.
Which is exactly what you do after handling anything you don't want to keep. The oldest hygiene in the world, applied one body deeper. And I know pranic healers are smiling right now, because this is the heart of their whole system. The cleansing before the energizing, the flicking away, the salt water bowl. It's all here in a book from 1925, which is precisely why their teacher put it on the list.
And only then, stage 2, the pouring in. The healer makes similar passes, but now with a strong effort of will to give, to pour their own magnetism and prana into the patient. Long, sweeping passes for the whole body, shorter ones for a particular area. Or, for a local trouble, a variation. One hand on each side of the affected part and the current sent through, from the right hand to the left, flushing the area between.
Empty first, then fill. And the chapter's conditions on the healer are really one condition, wearing different clothes. You can't pour from a dirty jug. The healer should be in good health because what you pour is yours. Your vitality, but also, as the mesmerism chapter is about to make very clear, your quality. Pour from a sick body or a disordered mind, and you're giving the patient that too.
There's a funny practical note. Silk clothing is apparently a barrier to the currents, so the book advises the patient wear the minimum that's appropriate. And then two health teachings that reach past healers to everybody. First, anything that promotes ordinary physical health helps the finer bodies too. And there's this vivid little warning about unused muscles. A muscle you never use doesn't just weaken, it produces a congestion of magnetism, a stagnant pool. And a stagnant pool in the double is a weak place where germs can get in.
The second one is the one that really gets me because it's so human. The book says worry itself can make you ill. Your mental and emotional troubles over time show up in the body as actual physical illness. It even describes the type, the person who frets. Someone who pours their strength into 100 small anxieties all day long. And all that churning, it says, grinds down through the finer body into this one, and it surfaces as nerves. All kinds of nervous complaints. Nearly all of it, the book says plainly, is just worry, worn into the body. And it would fade on its own if the person could only learn to be still, to keep themselves quiet and peaceful.
Yep, still and peaceful. It's a prescription, and the medicine is stillness.
Okay, but I want to be a bit careful with this one, because nobody chooses to worry, right? And honestly, telling a worrier that worrying makes them sick is just, like, one more thing to worry about. So the way I see it, it's not having a go at you, it's just how the body works. The worrying is real, and it does wear you down, like real wear on something delicate in you. So the stuff that helps? Resting, slowing down, being around people who are easy to be with. That's not you being soft on yourself. That's the repair.
Okay, chapter 18, mesmerism. And the book opens it with a distinction it clearly cares about, because the two words get muddled to this day. Hypnotism and mesmerism are not the same thing, and they work on completely different principles. Hypnotism, from the Greek for sleep, is essentially a nervous paralysis, usually self-induced, often through straining the eyes at a fixed point. It puts the subject, to some degree, under the operator's control. The book's actually mild about it. It's not harmful in itself. It can give real rest. It can dull pain.
And what about mesmerism?
So mesmerism, named after Franz Mesmer, the Vienna doctor who called it animal magnetism, is a different operation entirely. The essence of it is that the operator drives out the patient's own vital fluid and replaces it with his own. It's kind of like a substitution. So basically, your etheric current swapped for mine.
Which sounds pretty abstract until you remember what the etheric matter does. It's the carrier of feeling. So sensation travels on it. That was already back in episode 1.
That's the key, and here's the consequence. If the operator drives the etheric matter out of, say, your arm, the connection between that arm and your astral body, where feeling actually registers, is broken. The arm loses all sensation. It goes completely numb. And the book says that the blood still flows, the arm stays warm, like nothing physiological has actually stopped. Only the feeling is gone because the messenger is gone.
Okay, and this next part honestly deserves a second of respect. Because it's not theory, it's real, documented medical history. I mean, think about it. Before chloroform, there just wasn't any anesthesia. Every operating room was basically a torture chamber.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to picture surgery in that world.
Right? And then, right in the middle of all that, there's this doctor, Esdale, over in India, back in 1842. And he puts out a whole book of surgeries, major ones, all done under mesmeric anesthesia. Limbs going numb from exactly this, driving the vital fluid out. And Elliotson's doing the same thing in London. Real operations, real people, spared all that horror, decades before the chemistry ever caught up.
There's even what's called magnetic sympathy, where the two nervous systems are so interlinked that a stimulus applied to the operator is felt by the subject. Prick the operator's hand, and the subject flinches.
2 instruments, 1 wiring.
And a couple of mechanical notes that are pure this book. The passes with the hands, it turns out, aren't essential at all. They concentrate the fluid and they help the operator's imagination. And belief is half the engine of will. A skilled mesmerist manages by a look and the will alone. And there's a built-in limit, which I find reassuring. The etheric mechanism has 2 divisions, one unconscious, tied to the sympathetic nervous system, and one voluntary, tied to the cerebrospinal. Only the voluntary side can be mesmerized. So a mesmerist can't ordinarily touch your breathing or your circulation. The deep automatic machinery of life is out of reach.
The autopilot can't be handed over. Good. And now the cautions. Because this is where the book earns its sobriety. Everything from the healing chapter applies double here. The mesmerist pours in not just prana, but his own emanations, which means he can convey actual disease. And more than disease. Astral and mental matter go across too, which means moral and mental qualities transfer. Whatever the operator is, seeps in. And he gains, the book says, a far greater influence over the subject than is generally known.
Which is why the book's verdict is so carefully drawn. Curative mesmerism, done by someone who understands what they're doing and can be trusted not to abuse their power, has much to be said for it. It even has one genuine advantage over healing by sheer will, because will healing can drive a disease back inward, into the subtler bodies it came from, where it waits. Curative mesmerism doesn't carry that risk. But mesmerism for any other purpose, the book says plainly, is not advisable. Full stop.
Heal with it, and otherwise leave people's fluid alone. And then, right at the end of the chapter, there's my favorite passage in the whole episode. Because after all the operating theaters and cautions, it suddenly opens onto something devotional. The Pirit ceremony.
Go on, this one's yours.
So in the Buddhist tradition, in Sri Lanka especially, there's a ceremony called Parita, or Pirit, and the word literally means blessings. The monks sit in a circle or a hollow square, and they hold a rope, about as thick as a clothesline. And from the rope, strings run down to a great pot of water. And then, in relays, for days, continuously, they recite the scriptures, holding the whole time one clear intention in the mind, the will to bless. And the water charges. Day after day of chanted blessing poured down the cord into the pot. And then that water is given out to the people, and the sick can hold a thread connected to the rope. It's the healing chapter's whole mechanism, prana, will, the charged current, but done by a community, slowly, as devotion. Mesmerism as a form of love.
And the chapter closes with a scatter of small wonders in the same key. It's possible to mesmerize plants, apparently, and stimulate their growth, which the book offers as part of why some people have what we call a lucky hand in the garden. Their vitality is going into the pots.
Every green-thumbed auntie vindicated at last. So here's what these 2 chapters leave us with. And it's the turn the whole series has been building to. The vitality system isn't just anatomy to admire. It's something you can work with. One person's health really can support another's by presence and by intention. But it's an exchange with weight on both sides. You give what you are. So the state of the healer, their health, their stillness, their quality, matters as much as any technique, which might be the most practical spiritual teaching in the book. If you want to be good for other people, in this system, the first work is to be well yourself.
Fill the jug, clean the jug, then pour.
And next episode? Oh, next episode. We've been promising it for weeks. the seance room. Ghosts, mediums, and ectoplasm. 3 chapters the book treats with complete seriousness. And so will we. What a shell of protection actually is, and when to build one. What the book says is really happening when a medium produces a materialized form. And the strange substance a doctor of science spent years measuring with instruments. It's the uncanny corner of the book, and it's coming with us into the light.
Curious and calm, that's how we'll take it. And if this kind of thing speaks to you, this show is part of a growing family of shows over at Pillar 5 Media.
Different hosts, different books, all of us taking something deep and trying to make it feel like a conversation with a friend.
You'll find all of them at pillar5media.com. And that's pillar, then the number 5 as a numeral, media.com.
Thanks for being with us today. Look after your own supply this week. Someone near you is quietly drinking from it.
And if you catch yourself with your hand on someone's forehead, leave it there a minute longer. It's doing more than you think. We'll catch you in the next one.